This lesson is on samples and surveys. There's several different things we're going to look at in comparison to one another. The first is quantitative versus qualitative data. Okay. Now, quantitative is always going to be, not always, typically going to be represented with a number or by numbers. So, for example, age, weight, and time. Whereas qualitative data is going to be a quality or a characteristic, typically represented in words or something specific. So hair color, attitude, zip code. Now, while the zip code is going to be a number, it's not a quantitative data. It doesn't talk about numbers of something. Okay? Everybody lives at this specific zip code. It's like a town. All right, so let's do example 1. Favorite movies. Is it qualitative or quantitative data? That's not going to be represented by a number, so this is qualitative. Okay. Example 2, the number of students taking Spanish. Or number of students for anything, really, is going to always be quantitative. Easy enough. So qualitative versus quantitative data, number versus quality. All right, the next thing that we're going to look at is univariate versus bivariate types of data. All right, so univariate, you see the prefix uni, meaning one, so this is one variable. Data that just talks about one specific variable. Bivariate, that bi meaning two variables. So an example of univariate, looking at like the atomic weight of an element, maybe in comparison to the others, you're still only looking at that one thing, it's the weight. And bivariate, if you're looking for edge lengths and the volume, maybe you have a rectangular prism or something. Those are two different things that we need to be comparing or looking at. So that's bivariate data. So an example, heights and weights of animals. Okay, so that's going to be two things that I'm looking at, so that this is bivariate data. And then let's do example 2, the cost of internet from different providers. That is going to be one thing that I'm looking at. It's just that cost. It is univariate. One variable is the cost. Both of these happen to be quantitative data because height and weight are going to be numbers, and the cost of internet is going to be a price. That's also a quantitative data. All right. Now, when we're looking at samples, So if you're going to survey some population or a sample, those are the two things that we look at. If you're surveying the entire group, you're looking at the population. Now, it doesn't mean the population of the earth necessarily or the country. It's just of whatever group that you're specifically looking for. And then inside that, if it's too big to look at the whole population, we're going to look at a sample of that population. So that's a part, typically a random part of the group. All right. Now, there's different ways that you can find samples or sample the ways to sample different groups. Okay. Sampling methods. One is random sampling, like pulling names out of a hat. Okay, so these are all types of samples. There is systematic sampling, which is surveying every fifth person. So there's a random number, so every fifth person, it could be every 12th person, but it is systematic by doing that person every time. And then there is stratified sampling, which is more systematic. So, for example, high school separated into 4 groups. Okay, so for each grade, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and sampling each grade. So it wouldn't be fair to, say, do a random or a systematic every 5th person that comes out of a classroom, because that classroom may be filled with only juniors. So that wouldn't be a good sample. You'd want to do stratified to get a little bit of everybody from that entire population of the school. So let's talk about choosing a sample. We got 2 more things to put down here. So choosing a sample. So your example, interviewing students leaving an assembly wearing all the school colors. Is that a good sample to interview students leaving the assembly? Well, typically, is every student that comes out, or are a lot of students, going to be wearing all of the school colors? No, probably just the crazies. So that's not technically a good sample. Maybe you should do every 5th person coming out of that assembly. Do more of a systematic, or pull names out of a hat to get a better sample. And then the last thing that we're looking at is bias when you're sampling. So if you're biased towards something, this means assumptions that may or may not be true. So influencing an opinion. So the way that you survey, you have to be very careful about the way you word your questions so that you're not swaying their opinion without even intending to, or sometimes it is with intending to. So an example of that, so if a surveyor or an interviewer said, do you prefer exciting action movies or boring documentaries? Now, regardless of if you like documentaries or action movies, they swayed your opinion by using the words exciting and boring. They put in their opinion into this question to try to sway your opinion. The code word for this lesson is book. Oh, and here's your left-hand page. Go ahead and copy those down and determine if they are qualitative versus quantitative, univariate, bivariate. Are they random, systematic, or stratified sampling? And are these bias questions?